Success is a word that has been cheapened by the modern world to the point where it almost means nothing at all. Because we live in an era where people are desperate to point at a man wearing a rented suit or driving a leased sedan and claim that he has finally made it. You see these guys every single day in every major city on the planet where they go to expensive university for 4 years to get a piece of paper that qualifies them to be a high-level servant for a corporation that doesn't know their name, and then they grind for a decade to become a middle manager on a respectable salary like $150,000 a year. They have the company car and the office with the window, and inside the 4 walls of that building they feel like they are the king of the world because their subordinates have to laugh at their jokes and follow their instructions, but the very second that man walks out of the front door and steps onto the sidewalk, he becomes completely invisible to the rest of the world. His status is a local hallucination that only exists within a specific hierarchy, and if that company goes bankrupt or decides to downsize, his entire identity and his entire sense of power evaporates instantly because he has built a life on a foundation of permission. His wife isn't even truly attracted to him anymore because she can sense that he is a man who is controlled by other men, and he has let his body go soft while he was busy sitting in meetings, and he bought a luxury car thinking it would give him an aura of dominance, but he doesn't realize that. 18-year-old girls on the internet are driving that same car, which means it isn't power, it is just a middle-tier consumer product. Real success for a man is not about having a job where people are forced to respect you because of your title. It is built on a set of non-negotiable pillars that can never be taken away by a human resources department or a change in the economy. The first and most important of these pillars is absolute freedom. And I am not talking about the kind of freedom where you get 2 weeks of vacation a year to go sit on a beach and try to forget about your problems for a few days. I am talking about the ability to wake up in the morning and decide exactly where you want to be and what you want to do without having to check with a superior or a calendar. If you cannot choose how to spend your time, then you are a slave regardless of how high your salary happens to be. The old school slaves were given food and shelter in exchange for their labor, but the modern system realized that it is much more efficient to just give you a bit of paper money and make you buy your own food and shelter so that they don't have to deal with the overhead while they still own your time and your energy. If there is chaos in your city, or if the government starts making decisions that you don't agree with, and you cannot simply pack a bag and fly to Tokyo or Sydney or Dubai, then you are still living in a box. A free man moves, while a stuck man spends his entire life explaining why he cannot leave. The second pillar is your network, but most of you have no idea what a network actually is because you think it means having a few thousand followers on social media or a bunch of numbers in your phone from people you met at a bar. A real network is a financial and social weapon where the people on the other end of the line are individuals with real money and real resources and real power who will stop whatever they are doing the moment they see your name pop up on their screen because they know you are not a time waster. I can pick up my phone right now and call men worth tens of millions of dollars and they will answer immediately because they know that if I am calling it is about something heavy and something profitable. I can present an idea and ask for $100 million and they will listen because I have built a circle of high-level operators who move at the speed of light. Most men are trapped in low-level conversations with low-level people about sports and weather and politics, and they wonder why their life never levels up. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if those people are broke and unmotivated, then you are guaranteed to stay exactly where you are. Freedom combined with a high-level network is when the game of life truly changes, but then you have to account for your physical presence. Because a man with no physicality will never be fully respected by other men, no matter how much money he has in the bank. You can tell people that you are successful, and you can show them your bank statements, but if you look weak and you move weak and your body signals that you are a victim, then people will subconsciously rank you lower in the social hierarchy. Power is not just something that is spoken, it is something that is felt in the room. And if I can physically dominate you and you have no way to defend yourself, then there is a level of reality where I outrank you in that moment. I learned very early on that I had to look dangerous without even opening my mouth because my body language has to communicate that I am not the one to be trifled with. This is a fundamental part of success that modern society tries to tell you doesn't matter, but they are lying to you because they want you to be a soft and compliant unit that doesn't cause any trouble. You also have to understand the role of women in the life of a successful man, and I am not talking about chasing them or spending your energy trying to impress them. I am talking about the fact that if the woman in your life does not genuinely admire you and look at you like you are the top man in her world, then you are not operating at your real level. A man who is powerful, socially and financially and physically, pulls devotion from people naturally. And if your woman could leave you tomorrow without her heart breaking, then that is a piece of feedback telling you that you are not the man you think you are. If the men in your circle wouldn't go to war for you, then you have a weak network, and weak surroundings will eventually create a weak mind. I was 21 years old, and I was already planning this entire structure out because I knew I needed powerful men around me, and I needed to learn what they knew, and I needed to build a body that commanded respect. While most guys my age were busy scrolling through garbage and wasting their sexual energy and numbing themselves with substances, I was building a reality that would eventually become unshakable. If you don't feel confident, it is because you have built absolutely nothing to be confident about, and your mindset is a direct reflection of your current reality. If your bank account is empty, and your body is soft, and your friends are losers, and your girl doesn't respect you, then of course you doubt yourself, because your life is giving you constant proof that you are not dominant. On the other hand, if you were surrounded by warriors, and your money was right, and your body was built of iron, your mind would have no choice but to follow that reality. When people come to me and say they don't believe in themselves, I already know why before they even finish the sentence. Because I can see their habits and I can see their lack of discipline. Imagine putting 100,000 of these modern soft guys in front of their great-grandfathers who were men that hunted and fought and worked until they died and who marched into wars to protect their families. Those ancestors would be absolutely disgusted to see that their descendants are spending their lives vaping and watching porn and complaining about being tired or depressed while they play video games in a climate-controlled room. They bled so that you could exist, and you are using that gift to become a soft and useless version of a man. You should feel a deep sense of shame for wasting your potential, and that shame is the most useful tool you have, because it is the only thing that will drive you to change. The beautiful thing about being a man is that you can decide at any moment that you are not proud of who you are, and you can start building a better version of yourself from scratch. But instead of doing the work, most guys stay around other weak men so that they don't have to feel bad about their own mediocrity. They tell each other that it is normal to waste time, and it is normal to be unmotivated, but it isn't normal, it is just common, and there is a massive difference between the two. Your family isn't impressed by you, and your father isn't proud of you, and yet you still don't move with any sense of urgency. The real problem isn't the pain in your life, it is your refusal to admit that you are wasting the only life you will ever have. The men who say they could be more are the ones who still have hope, but the ones who claim they are fine just the way they are already finished. If you say you are depressed, then I want to see the list of things you are accomplishing every single day to fix it. Because if you are miserable, you should be the most productive person on the planet. You should be training like an animal and reading everything you can get your hands on and working extra hours to make money and fixing your physical form, because pain is the missing chemical in the formula for greatness. If you remove the pain, you remove the motivation to grow. Batman was only Batman because his parents were murdered, and if nothing bad ever happens to you, then you will never be forged into something strong. The worst thing that can happen to a man is to live a life with no resistance where everything is handed to him and he never has to fight for anything. Those men always end up empty and bored and looking for cheap thrills because they never earned their own self-respect. Real confidence only comes from looking back at your life and realizing that you went through hell and you didn't break. Training every day is a fundamental part of that discipline because there is no scenario where being stronger and more fit is the wrong choice. Whether you are in a jail cell, or you are a free man, or you are rich, or you are poor, you need to train. Because discipline is the foundation of everything else. I don't always want to train, and I am often busy with 1,000 other things, but I do it anyway so that I know I am the type of man who does what needs to be done, regardless of how he feels. If you only work when you feel motivated, then you will never be able to compete with a man like me, because I am working when I am tired, and when I am stressed, and when I don't want to. The path to the real prizes in life is very narrow, and while 100 people might start the journey, 99 of them will quit as soon as it gets difficult. That is exactly why the one who finishes gets all the gold. There is a version of you that never snoozes the alarm and never skips the gym and never wastes a single second on aimless scrolling or nonsense. And if you had lived like that for the last 24 months, you would be living a completely different reality right now. You would be richer and stronger and more respected, and you would have a woman who looks at you like you are a king. That version of you is not a fantasy. He is waiting for you to step up and stop being lazy. You need to stop obsessing over tiny investments and worrying about where to put $500, because if that is all the money you have, then your biggest problem is your lack of income. People got spoiled during the era of easy money where everything was pumping and they thought that was normal, but that window is closed and now we are back to a reality where making money is hard and you have to be exceptional to survive. The economy is now entirely based on attention, and if you don't have eyeballs on you or your product, then you are invisible. You need to be credible, and you need to know how to convert attention into cash flow, and the internet makes that possible for anyone who is willing to work like a maniac. Hope is not a plan, and waiting for the perfect moment is just a fancy way of being a coward. You cannot control the weather or the government or other people, but you can control your own mind, and most people hand that control over to their feelings. If you are shy, then do it shy, and if you are anxious, then do it anxious, because the world does not stop for your emotions. If you died tomorrow, the sun would still rise, and the shops would still open. So why are you acting like your fear is special? Real freedom is not just about not having a boss, it is about being uncollapsible, and designing a life where no single person or bank or government can press a button and make your whole world fall apart. Most men live with a single point of failure where they have one job and one income source in one city, and that is not success, it is fragility in a nice outfit. A truly high-level man engineers redundancy into his life so that he always has options. If one country becomes hostile, he has residency elsewhere. And if one payment processor bans him, he has alternatives. And if one platform deletes him, he has a private community that will follow him anywhere. Power is the quiet ability to pivot while everyone else is stuck arguing. And your goal should be to become a man whose options never drop to zero. You need to be able to move jurisdictions and industries and income channels while retaining your status and your cash flow. None of this happens by accident. It requires you to think 10 years ahead and build infrastructure around your name, like you are a corporation instead of just a consumer. Most people tie their entire identity to one context, and if you strip that context away, there is nothing left of them but clothes and bills. A real man's aura travels with him to every new country and every new room and every new platform. You need to understand that a powerful network is not about knowing people, it is about being needed by people. The reason powerful men answer my calls is because I provide value to them by making them money, or saving them time, or increasing their status. If you don't do one of those three things, then you are just another name in their phone that they will eventually block. You need to figure out what recurring value you bring to high-value people, whether you are a deal finder who knows who is selling and who is buying, or an audience holder who can point eyes at a project, or an operator who can actually build the systems that keep the money from leaking. You cannot be a spectator clapping for other people's wins and expect to be invited into the room. Good networks are self-selecting because weak men are uncomfortable in strong rooms where their low standards are exposed. If everyone around you is making $100,000 a month and you are making $3,000, then you either level up or you leave. And that is why most of you stay surrounded by average people who don't challenge the lies you tell yourself. You need to master frame control. Because while money might impress people at first, it is your frame that keeps them orbiting you. Your frame is the invisible story that everyone subconsciously agrees to in your presence. And if you walk in and everyone feels that you are the leader without you saying a word, then you own the frame. You establish this through consistency and risk tolerance and certainty. People don't follow logic, they follow certainty, and then they use logic to justify it later. This is why hard men always take what they want, while soft men are left asking for permission. You need to own the frame that you are the prize and that your life is moving forward with or without anyone else's approval. You protect your frame through scarcity, because if you are always available and always explaining yourself, then you destroy your own value. Powerful men have real distance because they are actually busy and actually in demand, and people value what isn't constantly offered to them. You can train your social gravity by making small frames and holding them, like refusing to explain yourself twice or refusing to argue with unserious people. Your reputation is your brand, and the woman beside you is a part of that narrative because she communicates your standards to the rest of the world. If your woman is disrespectful or attention-seeking, then it damages your positioning because you cannot preach power while being visibly undermined in your personal life. A high-value man installs standards for everyone in his proximity because his life is a brand that must be protected. Powerful men avoid mess, and if they think your personal life is chaotic, then they will not include you in serious business moves. You need to choose a lane and flood it with content and value until your reputation becomes a magnet that pulls people toward you. This is how you make money in an attention economy, where whoever gets the eyes gets to decide what to sell. You don't need to be good at everything, you just need one medium where your value is obvious, and then you need to use asymmetric plays where you do the work once and get paid repeatedly. A normal job is symmetric, but building an audience or a product is asymmetric, because one good video or one good connection can pay you for years. You should be earning in rich places and spending in cheap places and banking in stable places to increase your freedom and your wealth simultaneously. Most men fail because they stay on the floor after life hits them, but a high-level man assumes that turbulence is coming, and he builds his life with that in mind. Hope is not a strategy, and men who win are the ones who take control over their cash flows and their location and their narrative. Real laziness is mental, because most guys don't want to sit down and architect a life, they just want to react to whatever happens next. You need to be the architect who maps out his brand and his pillars and his assets until he is irreplaceable. A real network will increase your speed, and if the people around you are not making you faster at making money and solving problems, then you need to find a new circle. High-value people are allergic to chaos, and if you want to be in the room where it happens then, you need to show up with a value function and a level of discretion that makes you a safe bet. Stop treating everyone in your life the same, and start building layers where your inner circle is protected and your audience is leveraged. Power compounds in controlled environments, and if you can control your frame and your network and your attention, then the win is not just possible, it is inevitable. You are living in the first era in human history where you can truly become a sovereign male if you are willing to kill the soft version of yourself and do the work that everyone else is too afraid to do. The world is waiting for a leader, and if you don't step up, then you will be forced to follow someone who is less capable than you, and that should be the only motivation you ever need to get started right now. Your time is running out, and every second you spend thinking about doing it is a second you didn't spend actually doing it. So stop talking and start moving with a level of intensity that scares the average person. That is how you win, and that is how you become a legend in your own time. Success is the only form of revenge that actually matters, because every other reaction you have is just a confession of your own weakness. If you are sitting around sending angry messages or checking the social media profiles of people who wronged you, then you are simply broadcasting to the universe that they still have power over your emotions and your time. The ultimate answer to every person who ever doubted you or disrespected you or walked away from you when you were at your lowest is to become a version of yourself that they can no longer even recognize. Picture the look on the face of the woman who broke your heart and moved on to someone she thought was a better option when she sees you years later and realizes she made the biggest mistake of her life. She sees a man who is lean and strong and successful stepping out of a car that she never imagined you would own, with a level of presence and authority that she never felt from you when you were together. In that moment, her stomach drops, and she begins to resent the life she chose because she realized she traded a king for a commoner. That is the power of success. It punishes every teacher who told you that you would never amount to anything, and it humbles every boss who treated you like you were replaceable, and it silences every person who ever ignored your messages or laughed at your dreams. You do not need to play petty games or chase people for closure when you can simply become undeniable. I win by default, not because I am better at arguing, but because of who I have become as a man. If I leave a situation, I still win because that person will never find another version of me in their entire lifetime. Success is the final verdict in every story, and you have to ask yourself if you are willing to let the people who underestimated you be right for the rest of eternity. If you go through your entire life and never make those people question their judgment, then you are choosing to stay a permanent victim in a world that only respects results. If you are not actively building yourself into someone they regret losing, then you are essentially agreeing with their low opinion of you. Imagine reaching the end of your life and knowing that everyone who ever mistreated you still feels completely justified in their actions because you never did anything to prove them wrong. They think to themselves that they were right to leave you because you stayed a loser, and you stayed broke, and you stayed weak, and you never fought back with the only weapon that counts, which is massive achievement. That is how most men live, and it is a tragedy of the highest order because they have all the tools they need to change, but they lack the pride and the honor to stand up and do the work. It is always go time, and it has always been go time, and it will always be go time because the clock never stops ticking for your feelings or your excuses. There is another level of existence that you haven't even glimpsed yet, and as long as you refuse to rise, every person who wronged you has a valid reason to laugh at you behind your back. When you skip the gym, or when you choose to be lazy with your work, you are handing them a victory in the argument they are having about your worth. You need to have enough pride to shut them up once and for all with the reality of your life. Success should dominate every single thought in your head, and it should own every minute of your schedule, because nobody is coming to save you. No government and no leader and no miracle is going to drag you out of the hole you are in. It is you or it is no one. You can either get up and make it happen, or you can watch your youth disappear and your energy fade until you end up as nothing more than a walking punchline in the memories of the people who knew you. If the image of dying as a joke doesn't light a fire in your soul, then you are already finished. You can complain about the system, and you can curse the banks, and you can rant about the elites, but at the end of the day, you are the one living inside the world they created. If the people you call idiots are the ones controlling your circumstances, then what does that make you? Everyone wants a fantasy savior, but even if luck walked up to you in the street, it would turn you down, because you have nothing of value to offer. You can point fingers at the world all you want, but nobody came to your house and chained you to the couch. There is no system on earth that can permanently hold down a man who is relentless and focused and willing to do whatever it takes to win. The only thing that can truly stop you is your own decision to give up, and once you collapse mentally, they have won the war without ever having to fire a shot. You need to look at history and remember the names of the men who refused to bow, the conquerors and the builders and the leaders who took ground and created treasure where there was none before. There is no mystical creature coming to shower you with gold, and you have to get rich yourself through pure urgency and pressure. You should feel a sense of panic about how much time you have already wasted. You need to stop spending your nights numbing yourself with distractions and start working like the gap between the rich and the poor is about to become a permanent wall that you cannot climb later. If you don't escape mediocrity right now, your entire bloodline might stay trapped there for generations. You are not here to kill time with pointless outings and empty entertainment while your potential rots. The next time someone asks you to waste a night for no reason, you need to remember all the evenings you have already burned with nothing to show for them, and tell yourself that you are not repeating that pattern. You are locked in, and you are building, and if they want to stand beside you later, they have to earn that right now. Most people who say they want to be successful are lying to themselves, because when you look at their choices, they don't work hard, and they aren't disciplined, and they aren't even particularly good people. Logically, if you haven't won anything at all, there is a massive flaw in your effort or your character. This is survival of the fittest applied to every aspect of human life, and if you aren't benefiting it, it's because you haven't done what is required to deserve the benefit. When you say it is too hard, you are not giving a reason, you are giving away your identity as someone who is fine with losing. Think about the men who built the world with their bare hands in salt mines and dark tunnels, risking their lives just to feed their families with no internet and no remote jobs and no easy way out. They did the hard things because they had to, and you are living in an era where you can build wealth with a laptop, and you have the nerve to complain that it is difficult. It has always been difficult, and that is the entire point. The world was built by hard men, and the minimum respect you owe yourself is to stop whining and commit fully to the process. If you lose it, it's because you didn't act, and if you act consistently, your odds of winning explode until success becomes inevitable. You have more tools and more access than any generation of humans that came before you, and you are still finding ways to fail. At some point, a man has to decide to transform himself from a sheep into a wolf. Think about the two men who were laid off from the same company in the same city. One man stayed at home and argued with his wife and complained to his friends and watched his life spiral down into nothingness because he decided that nothing was possible. The second man kept moving every single day, and when nobody would hire him, he volunteered his time just to stay active and reliable. He showed up early and worked hard for free until a position opened up, and he was the only logical choice to fill it. The difference between those two men was not luck, it was belief and action. One man died on the inside because he surrendered while the other kept going until the possibility became a reality. You have to stop arguing with the past and replaying old conversations in your head, because the past cannot hear you, and the future is the only thing that is listening. The future is watching every move you make right now to decide whether to reward you or bury you. Real revenge is making the future so different from the past that everyone who ever underestimated you feels physically sick when they see what you have become. You don't need to shout that they were wrong, because your results will do the talking for you. Success turns every opinion about you into a permanent record where the doubters have to sit in silence and swallow their pride. Your only job is to become so upgraded that even your silence feels like a statement of dominance. Most of the people who hurt you will never change or admit they were wrong, because they will always rationalize their actions to protect their own egos. Your growth is the only thing that can pierce that shield and collapse their narrative. Strategic revenge is cold and slow and devastating because you disappear into your work and turn every insult into fuel for your engine. One day your existence becomes a mirror that they cannot look into because it reflects everything they threw away. The best revenge is not them crying, it is them pretending they are fine while they secretly compare their stagnant lives to your meteoric rise. You won't hear their regret, but you will feel the balance of power shift in your favor. You cannot stay where they left you, because if you stay at the same level, you are proving them right. Revenge begins when you say, "Watch me," and then you stop talking entirely. Most people live like satellites orbiting other people's worlds because they have no gravity of their own. They beg for validation and adjust their behavior to stay accepted, and that is why they are replaceable. Real revenge is turning yourself into a center of gravity so strong that people have to rearrange their lives just to be near you. If you felt ignored in the past, it is because you didn't have enough pull and you hadn't built enough value for people to feel a loss when you walked away. Gravity can be built through skills and reputation and wealth until you become impossible to discard. People remember who saves them time and who increases their opportunities, and they forget those who only demand emotional support. Your job is to engineer respect by elevating your value until ignoring you becomes a financial and social mistake. By the time you achieve this, you won't even want the revenge anymore because you will have outgrown the people you were trying to impress. People pretend money doesn't matter until they realize that money is the scoreboard of effectiveness in the real world. You stay broke because you haven't become valuable enough for the marketplace to reward you. And as long as you act like a victim, you will never pick up the tools to change that. Financial revenge is when the people who looked down on you realize you now earn in a day what they earn in a month. The modern world has given you the ability to reach millions of people from your bedroom, and if you are still scrolling instead of building, then you are choosing your own chains. Your phone is a tool for creation, not a toy for distraction, and once you start using it correctly, your deposits will start to reflect your new reality. Money buys you distance from the environments that kept you small, and it buys you the freedom to say no to people you don't respect. Every painful memory you have is a form of currency that you can either waste on self-pity or invest in your own strength. Pain is a brutal teacher, but it offers clarity that comfort can never provide. You can channel your suffering into an intensity and focus that people who have only known easy lives will never understand. You have to decide if your pain is going to turn you into a monster that is out of control or a weapon that is precise and lethal. Use your suffering to reveal the truth about the world, and use that realism to build a life that is resistant to any future betrayal. Revenge is generational because you are deciding that the cycle of weakness ends with you. You are building a future where your children will never know the instability that you faced. You have to upgrade your identity before your success can become permanent, because if you still see yourself as a loser, you will eventually sabotage your own progress. Identity work is uninstalling the script that other people wrote for you and writing your own based on the evidence of your actions. You prove to yourself every day that you are a man who can handle pressure, and a man who can learn anything, and a man whose presence has weight. When your identity rises, your standards explode, and you stop entertaining low-effort people and draining environments. The distance between you and your past is the ultimate revenge. At the highest level, revenge stops being about them and starts being about becoming a weapon against hopelessness itself. Your life becomes a signal to every other person who is struggling that it is possible to climb out of the hole and win. You become a glitch in the system that shatters the rules of what is possible for someone with your background. There is a silent prison made of comfort and routines that is more dangerous than any jail cell because it doesn't hurt enough to make you want to escape. Comfort is a trap that whispers that you have done enough while your potential is dying in the corner. You need to hate the idea of reaching the end of your life without ever seeing what you were truly capable of achieving. Most men are defeated by cushions and distractions rather than enemies, and they dissolve slowly in shallow water instead of drowning in the deep. Real revenge is a revolt against your own laziness and a commitment to progress as a lifestyle. You need to treat comfort as a brief reward rather than a home, and you need to get addicted to the feeling of seeing yourself improve every single day. The people who wronged you are betting that you will stay exactly the same, and your transformation is the only thing that can prove them wrong. You have to stop being a consumer and start being a creator who architects a life of power and influence. The world is waiting for leaders, and if you don't step up, you will be forced to follow someone who is less capable than you. This is the only life you get, and if you spend it trying to please people who don't care about you, then you have failed the ultimate test. Stand up and build something that is so large and so successful that it can never be ignored. Your time is running out, and every second you spend making excuses is a second you are handing to your enemies. Stop talking and start moving with an intensity that makes the average person uncomfortable. That is how you win, and that is how you take your revenge on a world that tried to tell you that you weren't enough. You are the only one who can decide the final chapter of your story.